the Irish Mafia, the Kinahan cartel. In this video, we're going to talk about why Conor McGregor might not even be hurt at all and may have been forced to throw the fight due to his extensive mob affiliations. Now, this is going to be a longer kind of video, and I'm going to have to look at my notes because there's a lot to get into because Conor McGregor's mob ties are extensive. Now, what made me decide to do this video is I keep seeing all these different rumors and ideas and thoughts and theories about what happened at UFC 329. Was Conor hurt before he walked out? Did he really get hurt there? Some people are looking at the video and analyzing and saying, well, we didn't really see a pop and we don't know that he's actually hurt. And it just got me to thinking, what reason could he possibly have to throw the fight? I mean, he's already extremely rich. By all appearances, he doesn't need money. And why would you risk going to prison or being banished from a sport that you supposedly love just to throw a fight? So I heard some of these conspiracy theories and I just dismissed them at first because I thought, well, he has no reason. And then I thought about it. I thought about all his mob connections, his ties to the Kinahan cartel, all the trouble he's gotten in the past. Now that can be a compelling reason, a family man. And we're going to go into direct targeted attacks on people he's close to. As recently as May of this year, which nobody's reporting on. I didn't even know about it until I started doing the research. So to think that this Conor that has these ties, that these things happen around and to, is gone and he's a changed man. Well, maybe he's changed, but the mob hasn't changed. The cartel hasn't changed. So let's get into it, guys. First, let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about Conor and his childhood. Conor grew up in Crumlin. Now, Crumlin in the 90s and 2000s, Crumlin is like a hard-as-nails, working-class South Dublin suburb, and it's the staging ground for what would become the Kinahan cartel. Now, Conor may not have been a street thug. He was thuggish, but, he may not have done, work around the cartel and been with the cartel. But growing up on those streets, you know who the heavy hitters are, and you associate with them, and you become friends with them. And there's proof of this. Let's get into some of these notes I have written down. So, Conor's frequently been photographed with an entourage including Andrew Murray and Jonathan Ryan, which Garda has confirmed have ties to drug distribution cells in Crumlin. These are drug guys. Now, we know about Conor's drug problem, so it would kind of make sense he would run with drug guys, but these are street guys. These are, guys in that world, not the kind of guys that you just hang out with, but these are the people that Conor grew up with. These are his buddies. This was his life. So these guys are frequently they're photographed in his private jet, at clubs with him, at restaurants, all kinds of venues. These are the people that he's hung out with for years and years and years. Documented criminals. I think Conor wanted to be like a street king. He wanted that persona. Now, he didn't necessarily want to be committing crime. He wanted to go the sports path, right? He wanted to be a superstar. But wanting to be a superstar, you kind of have delusions, these like grand delusions of being, that feared thug. And I think that's why he surrounds himself with people like this, or at least has in the past, for sure. It's documented. So that's one aspect of this. Now let's get into some of the occurrences that have happened that maybe a lot of the broader audience don't know all the finer details on. Let's talk about in 2017, the pub brawl and the bounty. Did you guys know that Conor had a bounty placed on his life by the Kinahan drug cartel? A lot of people don't know that. Let's go back to November 2017. Maybe some of you remember it, some of you don't. You remember an old man that Conor punched in the bar that he would later go on to buy and turn into the Black Forge Inn, I believe is what he calls it. 50-year-old man, we've all seen the video. He offered him a drink. The man wouldn't take the drink, so he gave him a little smack, right? Well, are you aware of who that 50-year-old man was? That 50-year-old man that Conor gave that little smack was named Ryan Wellen. Now you might ask, who's Ryan Wellen? I mean, we don't know who Ryan. Well, Ryan Wellen is the father of Graham the Wig Wellen. Now, you can probably guess from the ominous, middle name, nickname, whatever you want to call it, the Wig. That's like a pure mobster thing. All mobsters, they have to have that, Tony Two Toes and, all that. So the old man that he punched is the father of Graham the Wig Wellen. Well, you may ask who Graham the Wig Wellen is. He is a top-tier enforcer for the Kinahan Organized Crime Group, KOCG. He survived the bloody Hutch Kinahan feud that left nearly 20 people dead on the streets of Dublin. That is who Graham the Wig Wellen is. A documented, known, by Garda, high-level enforcer in the Kinahan crime family. Now, Conor punched his dad. Yeah, how do you think he took that? Not well. Not well at all. A 900,000-pound bounty was placed on Conor McGregor after that incident. A lot of people don't know that. Now, Conor denied it. He was asked about it after a court hearing at one point, and he said, it's all bollocks. It was not all bollocks. You see, the threat was so serious, in fact, that the Garda, and for those that don't know, the Garda is the Irish police. That's what they call the Irish police. The Garda visited Conor McGregor, and they issued him a GIM form. Now, that's a Garda information message. That's a legal notice that his life is in imminent danger. The bounty was real. Conor had a 900,000-pound bounty on his head by the Kinahan crime family for punching that old man. Now, you might ask, why is Conor still alive? This was clear back in 2017. If he had such a high bounty, why did nobody get him? Because Daniel Kinahan himself, along with Thomas the Bombardier Kavanagh, intervened. They knew that it would bring entirely too much. You got to think, these guys run a multi-billion-dollar drug cartel and pipeline. They're all over the world. They don't need the heat from killing Ireland's biggest sports star ever. They don't need that kind of heat. So while there needed to be reparations, they also had to make sure that Conor was not murdered, especially since it had become knowledge that they had placed a bounty, or, somewhere in their network the bounty had been placed. So Daniel Kinahan and Thomas Kavanagh, they stepped in, and, this is reportedly, obviously. I wasn't there. I can't say with absolute authority, but I mean, come on, guys. We kind of know. You can look at the information that's out there, and it's pretty clear what's going on. So reportedly, they stepped in because they realized, like I said, that it would bring too much heat. Now, here's the plot twist, and this kind of confirms that they stepped in, because after Conor had the bounty placed on him, he actually left Ireland, and that's documented as well. You can look at the timelines. Ireland, or Conor, he dipped out of Ireland after the bounty was placed. Now, if the bounty wasn't placed, why did he leave Ireland? So, after the bounty is reportedly taken off, because Daniel Kinahan and Kavanagh squashed things, sorted things out, whatever they did, came to an agreement. Suddenly Conor is back in Ireland, and who is he hanging out with? Oh, this is great. He is pictured with his arm around at the Black Forge Inn, buddy with Graham Wellen, yeah. So I guess they sorted things out, right? So now he's buddy with Graham Wellen, a top enforcer. So, yeah, those are some pretty deep ties right there. But we're only getting started, guys. Now, let's talk about some of the corporate overlap, the Daniel Kinahan axis. Daniel Kinahan has so many ties to the combat sports world. You might not know this, but he formed MTK Global, formerly MGM, which is a massive combat sports management company, and he managed huge stars throughout boxing and MMA. I mean, he managed Tyson Fury, dozens of MMA, UFC fighters. He's in this world, and we know something about this world too. We know this world is corrupt. We know boxing is especially corrupt. It's been very corrupt for a very long time, and that is documented, and people know that. But I feel like it gets missed, the corruption in MMA as well. And I think maybe, it's because it's easier to hide in MMA. There's so many like freak occurrences that do happen and ways to finish a fight that I think it gets kind of overlooked just how prevalent it is in MMA. Some of it's coming to light a little bit more, honestly, though. I mean, you had all the controversy with James Krause and the betting scandal going on there and the Derek Minner fight. And, all that kind of brought some of this to the forefront. It kind of blew some of this up. But it's still widely missed just how much mob ties and corruption go into combat sports in general, and that's boxing and MMA. That's everything. So Daniel Kinahan has long had ties in this world, has long been a part of the Irish sports community, the combat sports community in Ireland. Daniel Kinahan has deep, deep ties to that. Now, Conor was not signed to MTK. That's important to note. Conor was with Paradigm. He was never signed, but he trained at MTK gyms. He trained with MTK fighters, associated with them, was friends with them, and he has even publicly praised Daniel Kinahan's contribution to combat sports. He's definitely not unfriendly with Daniel Kinahan, and also the fact that Daniel Kinahan squashed that beef after him punching the old man, it puts them in a room together. I mean, we can already assume they were because they grew up in the same areas, and Conor grew up and has been documented hanging out with enforcers of the Kinahan cartel. But that alone, that meeting to squash the beef, that puts them, in association for sure. And Conor has spoken very positively about Daniel Kinahan. Okay. Let's get into some of the attacks that have happened throughout the years on people crossing Conor, on Conor himself, on Conor associates. Now, the timeline we're talking about now is 2022 through 2026. And again, the 2026 is the surprising part because I think a lot of people thought that this kind of stuff, these kind of reports were behind him. And this one has been kind of swept under the rug. I haven't seen it anywhere. This last one that we're going to get to in May 2026. So, in January of 2022, two masked men on a scooter hurled Molotov cocktails at the front doors of McGregor's pub, the Black Forge Inn. Now, let me walk you through what that means in the mob world. Especially, this is kind of a known thing in Irish, like, mob land. That's a message. That is... because they done it after hours. They're not attacking, people. They're not attacking the man. That's just a message. That's just, they threw a couple firebombs, planted a couple explosives. There wasn't extensive damage. There was no injuries. But what that is that's a message from the mob. That is basically saying you're not free from our reach. That's extortion. That's, protection money, whatever. That's, you still have to kick up to us. Just because you're a megastar doesn't make you free from us. That was some sort of warning, a reminder, a message, clearly. Let's move on. Now we have, and guys, I hate talking about this one because it gets dark. This one's the darkest thing in Conor's story. And I think you know where I'm going to go. It's the Nikita Hand thing. Now, in 2024, Conor was held civilly liable for the brutal rape of Nikita Hand. A lot of people have covered that a lot, and I'll be honest with you, I tried to kind of avoid some of the details of that case. I just didn't really want to get into it. I didn't. That's God, I hope that he didn't actually do that, but I haven't looked at the evidence enough to tell you that, oh, it was a money grab or anything like that. I mean, honestly, if we're being logical between that and all the other allegations he's had along those lines, it doesn't look good for him. It's probably, there's, where there's smoke, there's fire. So, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about the mob ties. So we're not going to get into the whole Nikita Hand thing, but we are going to talk about what happened to Nikita Hand, a terrifying thing that happened to her during the course of this. Now, he was accused of raping her in 2018. These things sort of drag on. And it was in 2024 that he was found civilly liable for it. And on June 14th, 2024, a gang of men wearing balaclavas smashed through the windows of Nikita Hand's home. Hand's boyfriend engaged them in a violent hallway brawl to protect her sleeping daughter and was stabbed multiple times, requiring emergency hospitalization. Now, we don't know, and even Nikita Hand's own attorneys basically said that they're not saying that Conor ordered the hit. But clearly associating with those enforcers and being friends with those kind of people, whether he ordered it or not, that was clearly a message for her to drop the case, back off, and let it go. Now, she didn't. It didn't work. But she did have to flee her home under Garda escort. She had to flee her home and leave everything. Her daughter, her boyfriend, they had to flee because masked men broke into their home and stabbed her boyfriend. That's serious stuff. That's very serious stuff. That's heavy stuff. These are the kind of heavy associations that Conor McGregor has. Now, here's the part I'm sure you've been waiting for. The May 2026 incident. So on May 1st, 2026, a high-end Toyota Tacoma truck, highly modified, beautiful, was firebombed and completely incinerated on Nas Road in Dublin. Now, who did the truck belong to? It belonged to Phil Sutcliffe Sr. Now you might wonder who Phil Sutcliffe Sr. is. That was Conor McGregor's childhood boxing coach and a Dublin city councillor who infamously stood by McGregor during the Nikita Hand trial and lost his political career because of it. But this is a close associate of McGregor. This is like a secondary father figure. Your first boxing coach as McGregor was a child, and who gifted him that beautiful, highly modified truck? McGregor did, and it bore McGregor's Black Forge in decals and vinyl wrap and things like that. McGregor gave him that truck. Excuse me, guys. And it was firebombed May of this year. Now, that's really all the notes I have regarding some of the things that have happened. But let's just talk about some obvious things as well. Why is Conor never in Ireland anymore? Very rarely is that guy in Ireland. He's almost always in, on a boat, on a yacht, out in, Spain somewhere, or, something like that. Why is he always gone? So, that's one thing. If you have ties to all these dangerous people, and sometimes they're cool with you, and more often they're not, it might be in your best interest to not be home so often. Now, Conor has been an absolute wild card, and I'm not trying to say that it's impossible for people to change. I'm not even saying that he hasn't changed. it it looks like he's tried to make some positive changes. And if he has, you know, amazing, because his family deserves that. The dude's got little kids. He's got like 4 kids. He's got a wife who's stuck with him through all his shit. And they absolutely deserve a changed man. So I hope that he is changed. But even if he is changed, that does not change the mob. That does not change the Kinahan cartel. That does not change their reach or influence or what they can make him do. He can change all he wants. But he bought himself into that world. He immersed himself in it. He surrounded himself by those people. And you don't just get out because you found God. Those people don't let you out, especially when you have the influence and power that Conor McGregor has. You don't get to just leave. So that brings us back to the fight. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a knee expert, but I see these things floating around where certain experts are saying, well, the angle didn't look right. I don't know that I didn't see a pop in the video. And some are even saying, well, even if it did, it didn't look like it would be anything more than just, maybe a meniscus or something. Now, a meniscus tear isn't really going to make your knee pop out like that. Yeah, sure, it'll hurt. It'll damage your stability a bit, but he was acting like his knee was popping out, like he was falling, right? He was losing all stability. Now, that's more like an ACL, which none of the doctors I've seen that have viewed the footage have said that it looked like an ACL to them. Now, I mean, obviously without, scans and all that, you're not going to know. But let's talk about some other things as well. Conor's fought with a tore ACL before, and a lot of other fighters have too. It's not like it pops out every second you put any weight on it, like he was acting. Now, again, I'm not a doctor. Maybe if it was horribly bad, and by all accounts, he's torn it a couple times. So maybe it is to that point where it's so fragile that it was just popping out. But I've known several people with torn ACLs. I've had some knee issues myself. And yes, there's moments that it pops out and there's certain motions and movements. But I mean, he was acting like it was just popping out. Even when he threw a punch, he took a step back. And man, I don't know. So that seemed fishy. But more than that, here is the biggest thing. And this is why my gears started kind of turning along these lines, because nothing about that night added up. Conor did not look right walking to the cage, in the cage, his eyes, his face, his aura, his demeanor. Something was off, and I think we all seen that. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, it was off because he got hurt, warming up in the back or something like that, and so he was just going out to do the best he could, but he ultimately knew he was going to lose, so he was nervous because he got hurt in the back warming up. Now, maybe. But let me ask you this. If the mindset was, I hurt this in the back, warming up, but obviously I can't pull out now, I'm going to get my money, and damn it, I'm going to go try. Well, he didn't try, did he? If you got hurt in the back warming up, and your thought process is you're going to go give it what you've got, you're going to do what he did the first time he blew his knee out fighting Max. He's going to wrestle. He's not going to run across the cage and throw a jumping switch kick. Right? If the thought process is, well, I'm going to try, I hurt my knee, it's not going to be, let me go do the most explosive, hard on my knee movement I can do. No. So that brings us back to, why was he nervous? Or whatever that look was. Why was he off in that walkout? What was he hiding behind those eyes? What was going through his mind? Because it wasn't right. And sure, maybe you might say it's just, well, he's been away for 5 years. Of course he was nervous. Okay. Maybe. Could be. Not saying that's impossible. Or maybe he knew he was going in to throw the fight and he felt gutted about the fact that he was going to have to do that and this was going to have to be his comeback because maybe he was pressured, maybe he was leaned on, maybe he was made to do that. You know, $900,000, the same amount that he had the bounty placed on him for, was placed on Max Holloway, like as he was walking out. Isn't that strange? The same amount as his bounty, right? Now, I'm not saying that this is for certain. Obviously, we'll never know. But maybe old Daniel Kinahan, when he was brokering that peace deal, maybe part of that peace deal was one of these days we're going to come to collect. And that $900,000 bounty you owe us, that's not going to be paid to us by you for $900,000. That you're not going to cut us a check. Because these people, they don't like that. They like favors. That's one thing about the mob. And that's any mob. That's any nationality's mob. They operate on favors from powerful people. That is the currency. That is the sweetest currency. You don't want money. They make money. They have billions of dollars. You want powerful people to owe you. So rest assured, when they squashed that beef and saved Conor's life, they didn't do it because Conor paid them money. They did it ensuring Conor owed them, hey, we saved your life. You would be dead. You owe us. And one of these days, we're going to come to collect. Now, Conor's got a big ego. He might start to feel like he's untouchable. Hey, I have powerful friends too. So maybe he starts telling them, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to throw my comeback after 5 years. I'm not going to do it. You can find something else. So maybe they firebomb his old mentor's truck in May of this year to send a message. We can get to people you care about. We are coming to collect. You owe us. That's how these kind of people operate. So maybe that look in Conor's eye on the walkout was that heaviness, because that's what it looked like to me. It didn't look like a nervous, like I'm scared of this fight, or I'm injured, so I'm gonna, probably not win this fight. It didn't look at that like that at all to me. That was just a heavy look. Like that looked like Conor had 10 million tons just weighing on him. You could see it burned into his soul. That was a heavy look. If you can read people at all and you can read eyes and body language and looks, that was heavy. There was something heavy on that man's mind on that walkout and stepping into that cage. Now I'm going to make another point about this. Because, of course, Conor's denying that he was hurt. Him and his coach, John Kavanagh. They're all saying, it was just a freak accident. He literally injured his knee on the first kick, and they're gutted and stuff. But, okay, I'm going to bring this back to a few other points. For one, Conor didn't try. Conor quit after that kick. He threw a couple, more things, but he kept, falling, which to me seems a little unrealistic, but again, not impossible. He has a lot of wear. But then he quits. He steps back, it hurts him again, and he quits. Instead of shooting in, instead of trying to wrestle, he quit. Now, that's one. Another thing, we've all seen the footage, and this is getting passed around a lot. There's a lot of backroom footage of him warming up, throwing that exact kick. And there's people that have came out from like the Mac Life, I believe. But there's some journalists that have came out saying, oh yeah, man, we've been watching Conor in this training camp. He's been throwing that kick nonstop. You know, he's been drilling that kick so much. He definitely wasn't hurt before because he's been throwing that kick like crazy. Even his coach John Kavanaugh say we train that kick every day. We've been drilling that opening kick every day. All right, guys. Why has he been drilling that so heavily? Now, Conor's been acting a little bit. You know, he was in Roadhouse. So he's used to the idea in acting that you practice, you rehearse. Especially in explosive movement, you've got to rehearse. You've got to get it just right. You have to have that movement burned into your head so you can make sure to throw it and land a little off and fall. Why did he have to drill that every single day just for an opening shot? Now, I've seen some people say it wasn't weird for him to come out and throw that explosive shot. He opens a lot of fights that way, and that's true. That's true. Conor does have a history of going and opening a fight with a crazy explosive movement. He's never once landed one. It's just a fun little Hail Mary, what if, let's start the fight exciting and show that I'm going to get in your face and pressure you. It's not the kind of thing that you would need to drill every single day for months throughout a training camp to make sure you have just right. It's not that. It's not that. The whole thing doesn't add up. Now, where there's smoke, there's fire. I've already made that point. And there's a lot of smoke around this. It doesn't seem right. Even from him just bailing, dipping out of the arena. I mean, come on. When he broke his leg, 2 bones, tibia and fibula, against Dustin Poirier, he was laid out there wanting an interview and still yelling. But this Conor hurts his knee and just gets the fuck out as quick as he can? Guys, I think I've cracked this case. You can like, subscribe, share this video, show your friends, show your family, send it to other journalists and analysts and all the people spreading the conspiracy theories, because the Fat MMA has cracked this one. We figured it out, boys. We know what happened. $900,000 bet on Max Holloway while he's walking out. Weight of the world on a man's chest, in his eyes, in his soul. $900,000 bounty placed on him in 2018. Squashed. This man threw that fight. And he didn't throw it because he wanted to. I'm sure he is absolutely gutted. I believe his posts about him living in literal hell right now. I bet it's hell. I bet it's horrible. Now, darkness breeds darkness. And he's brought on a lot of darkness. And so, you reap what you sow. But that man had a debt to pay. A life debt. And he paid it Saturday night at UFC 329. That's what happened. Guys, like I said, like, subscribe, share. I normally end these videos with, some positive reinforcement. Go exercise, go do something. But my heart's heavy right now, man. My soul's heavy, my heart's heavy. When this all clicked for me, man, it sucks. The sport is a dirty bitch sometimes. So, that's all I got for you guys. Have a great day.